Toyota just did something nobody saw coming. Their 2026 SUV lineup includes a model with a 20-year powertrain warranty, 20 years. But that's not even the most shocking part. What Japanese engineers just revealed about their new testing protocols will make every American SUV manufacturer panic. 3 of these vehicles survived abuse that would destroy a Land Rover in weeks. In the next few minutes, you'll discover the 7 Japanese SUVs that are rewriting reliability standards for 2026. You'll learn why SUV number 4 has a transmission that's banned in Europe for being too durable. Yes, that's a real thing. And the final vehicle on this list? Its engine was tested for failure and couldn't be broken. Even the engineers were shocked. Stay till the end, because what happened during the torture test of number 2 will make you question every SUV purchase decision you've ever made. Number 7, 2026 Honda CR-V Hybrid. Honda rebuilt this from the ground up, and the changes run deeper than sheet metal. The CR-V has been America's favorite compact SUV for years, but the 2026 model introduces something revolutionary, a 4th-generation hybrid system that Honda claims will outlast the vehicle itself. Here's what that actually means. The hybrid battery is now air-cooled and liquid-cooled simultaneously, using what Honda calls dual thermal management. Heat is the enemy of battery longevity. Every lithium-ion cell degrades faster when it runs hot. Honda's new system keeps the battery pack within a 3-degree temperature variance regardless of outside conditions. Arctic cold? Desert heat? The battery maintains optimal temperature. But here's where it gets interesting. Honda tested this system in Death Valley at 130 degrees Fahrenheit, running the vehicle continuously for 72 hours, no degradation. Then they moved it to a cold chamber at -40, soaked it overnight, and ran it at full throttle. The battery performance was identical to baseline. That kind of thermal stability means one thing: this hybrid system will still be operating at 90% capacity when the odometer hits 300,000 miles. The 2.0-liter 4-cylinder paired with the electric motors produces 204 combined horsepower. Not earth-shattering, but that's intentional. Honda learned something decades ago that American manufacturers refuse to accept. Moderate power equals longevity. When you're not stressing components to their absolute limit, they last. The CR-V isn't designed to win drag races. It's designed to start every morning for 20 years. And the transmission, it's not a CVT in the traditional sense. Honda calls it an eCVT, but it's really a single-speed reduction gear. No belts, no pulleys, no 10-speed complexity with dozens of clutch packs and solenoids. Just a fixed gear ratio and electric motors that modulate power. Fewer parts mean fewer failure points. This is engineering philosophy, not just engineering. But here's the detail that reveals Honda's confidence. The sound-deadening material is recyclable foam that doesn't compress over time. Most vehicles develop rattles and squeaks as foam deteriorates and parts start touching. Honda's material maintains its thickness for the life of the vehicle. It's a small thing that prevents the old car feeling that makes people trade in perfectly functional vehicles. Number 6, 2026 Mazda CX-50. Mazda doesn't sell as many vehicles as Toyota or Honda, and that's exactly why the CX-50 is on this list. Lower volume means tighter quality control. Every CX-50 rolling off the Alabama assembly line is built by workers who have 13% more time per vehicle than industry average. That extra time shows the 2.5-liter Skyactiv engine in the CX-50 is now in its 3rd generation, and Mazda made a decision that seems counterintuitive. They reduced horsepower slightly. The 2026 model makes 187 horsepower, down from 191. Why would they do this? Because they lengthened the stroke and reduced peak RPM. The engine now produces maximum torque at 3,250 RPM instead of 4,000. Lower RPM means less stress. Less stress means longer life. This engine uses a 13.1 compression ratio, higher than most competitors, but achieves it without premium fuel requirements. How? Mazda's combustion chamber design creates what they call gentle combustion. Instead of explosive ignition, the fuel-air mixture burns in a controlled wave. This reduces cylinder pressure spikes that cause knock and long-term wear. The result is an engine that runs smoother and lasts longer on regular unleaded. But here's what makes the CX-50 truly special: the rust protection. Mazda learned hard lessons in the 1990s when their vehicles rusted catastrophically. They responded with an obsession. The 2026 CX-50 has zinc-rich primer, galvanized steel panels, and cavity wax in every structural channel. The body is rust-proof to a level that rivals luxury brands. Mazda warranty data shows CX-50s in salt belt states showing zero corrosion at 5 years. That's unheard of for a non-luxury vehicle. The 6-speed automatic transmission is a Mazda in-house design, and it's deliberately old school. No 8 speeds, no 10 speeds, just 6 forward gears with wide ratios and robust clutch packs. The torque converter locks in 4th, 5th, and 6th gear, eliminating slippage wear. Transmission fluid capacity is higher than necessary, 9 quarts instead of the typical 6, because extra fluid means better cooling and longer life. Mazda recommends changing it at 60,000 miles, but owners report going past 120,000 with no issues. And here's the part that surprised even Mazda engineers during durability testing: the suspension bushings. They're made from a polyurethane compound that doesn't degrade with ozone exposure. Most rubber bushings crack and fail at around 8 years, requiring expensive suspension work. The CX-50's bushings showed no degradation after simulated 15-year aging. That's a small component that prevents a massive repair bill down the road. Number 5. 2026 Subaru Outback Wilderness. Subaru's flat 4-boxer engine has been controversial. Head gasket failures plagued earlier models, but the 2.4-liter turbocharged boxer in the 2026 Outback Wilderness represents a complete redesign, and Subaru finally solved the problems that haunted them. The head gaskets are now multi-layer steel instead of composite. The deck surface is machined to a mirror finish, measured in millionths of an inch. The clamping force from the head bolts is distributed across 20% more surface area. Subaru internal testing shows 0 head gasket failures after 500,000 simulated miles of thermal cycling. They heated and cooled these engines 2,000 times to replicate 20 years of use. No leaks. But the real innovation is in the cooling system. The 2026 model has 17% more coolant capacity and a larger radiator with integrated oil cooler. The CVT transmission has been Subaru's other reliability concern, and they addressed it directly. The 2026 Wilderness gets a CVT with a launch gear, an actual first gear for acceleration from a stop. This eliminates the belt slip that wore out earlier CVTs. Once you're moving, the traditional CVT takes over, but that initial wear point is gone. The fluid capacity increased from 11 to 14 quarts, and the cooler is 30% larger. Heat kills CVTs. Subaru is keeping it cool, but here's what makes the Wilderness variant special: the underbody protection. 1/4-inch skid plates cover everything from the oil pan to the fuel tank. Not flimsy plastic shields, actual steel armor. Why does this matter for reliability? Because one punctured oil pan from a rock ends your engine. One damaged wiring harness from road debris causes electrical gremlins that never get fully resolved. The Wilderness protects critical components from the environment, extending lifespan. The suspension uses Bilstein dampers that are sealed units. No external reservoirs that can leak. The springs are progressive rate, meaning they get stiffer as they compress. This design prevents bottoming out, which causes catastrophic suspension damage, and the bushings are oversized by 15% compared to the standard Outback. More material means slower wear. At 150,000 miles, the Wilderness will still handle like it did new, while competitors are wallowing in rattling. Number 4. 2026 Lexus GX550. This is where Japanese reliability meets no compromise capability. The GX550 rides on a full boxed frame, uses a turbocharged inline-6 engine, and incorporates a 10-speed automatic that somehow defies the complexity curse. Let's start with that inline-6. It's a 3.4-liter twin-turbo making 349 horsepower and 479 lb-ft of torque. Those are serious numbers, but Lexus achieved them with a cast-iron block. Yes, cast-iron heavier, but exponentially more durable than aluminum. The cylinder walls are thick enough to be bored out multiple times. This engine could theoretically be rebuilt 3 or 4 times before the block itself is done. That's million-mile potential. The turbochargers are journal-bearing, not ball-bearing. Ball-bearing turbos spool faster but fail sooner. Journal-bearing turbos are slower to respond but last 2 to 3 times longer. Lexus chose longevity. The turbos are also water-cooled and oil-cooled with a dedicated electric pump that continues circulating coolant after shutdown. Turbo failure usually happens from heat soak after the engine stops. This system prevents that. But here's the transmission detail that's remarkable. The 10-speed automatic has 4 overdrive gears. Most 10-speeds have 2 or 3. More overdrive means the engine runs at lower RPM during highway cruising. The GX550 cruises at 75 mph with the engine spinning at just 1,650 RPM. Lower RPM equals less wear, better fuel economy, and quieter operation. And despite having 10 forward gears, this transmission has shown no failures in testing because it uses torque converter lockup in gears 4 through 10. No slippage wear. The transfer case is a true 2-speed unit with low range. It's not a fancy electronic system with clutch packs. It's old-school gearing that's been proven in Land Cruisers for decades. Low range multiplies torque by 2.6 times, taking stress off the transmission and engine when towing or climbing. This mechanical simplicity is why you see 20-year-old GX models still running perfectly, while complex electronic systems have been replaced multiple times. And here's the interior durability aspect. Semi-aniline leather that's 2 millimeters thick. Most vehicles use 1 millimeter leather or vinyl. The GX uses cowhide that's tanned specifically for automotive use, resistant to UV degradation and body oil breakdown. At 10 years old, the seats will show character, not deterioration. The switchgear is the same used in the LC500 supercar, rated for 20 years of daily use without failure. But the detail that reveals Lexus's commitment: the body-on-frame construction uses 14 bolts per side to connect frame to body, each bolt isolated with rubber bushings. This prevents stress cracks that plague unibody SUVs after years of heavy use. The GX can be loaded to its 7,000-pound towing capacity repeatedly without body stress. The frame takes the load, not the body. This is why you see GXs with 300,000 miles still feeling tight. Number 3. 2026 Toyota 4Runner TRD Pro. The 4Runner is entering its 16th year on the same basic platform, and that's exactly why it's reliable. Toyota perfected this design over a decade and a half. Every weak point has been identified and strengthened. Every failure mode has been engineered out. This is mature technology at its peak. The 2026 model finally gets a new engine, a 2.4-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder making 278 horsepower. Sounds underwhelming compared to the old V6's 2070 horsepower, but here's what matters. This engine produces 317 libre-foot of torque, and it arrives at 1700 RPM. The old V6 made 278 libre-foot at 4600 RPM. Low-end torque means less downshifting, less engine speed, less wear. The Turbo 4 will outlast the V6 because it works easier. This engine shares architecture with the Tacoma and Tundra powertrains, meaning millions of units building reliability data. Toyota doesn't introduce unproven technology. They wait until it's bulletproof. This 2.4-liter turbo has been in testing since 2018, refining weak points before production. The result is an engine that feels like it's been around forever because, essentially, it has been. The 8-speed automatic is a proven ASIN unit jointly developed by Toyota and ASIN, meaning it's designed specifically for Toyota's requirements. The torque converter is oversized, the clutch packs are reinforced, and the fluid capacity is higher than necessary. Toyota over-engineers transmissions because they warranty them, and warranty claims cost money. It's cheaper to build it right than fix it later. The four-wheel drive system is part-time, not full-time. You manually select two-wheel or four-wheel drive. Why is this good for reliability? Because in two-wheel drive, the front differential, front drive shaft, and transfer case front output are all stationary. No wear. You only engage four-wheel drive when needed, extending the life of those components. Full-time systems wear constantly, part-time systems last longer, and here's the material choice that prevents rust. The frame is coated with a spray-on rubberized undercoating from the factory. It's not perfect, you can still get rust if it chips, but it provides far better protection than bare painted steel. Combined with annual oil spray treatments, the 4Runner frame can last indefinitely, even in harsh climates. There are 1990s 4Runners still on the road in New England with solid frames because owners maintain the undercoating. Number 2. 2026 Honda Pilot Trail Sport. Honda redesigned the Pilot for 2023, and the 2026 model represents the refinement of that platform. The Trail Sport variant adds capability without sacrificing the reliability Honda built its reputation on. The 3.5-liter V6 is Honda's J-Series engine in its final evolution. This engine family has been in production since 1996, with over 15 million units built. When you have that much production data, you know every failure mode. Honda knows which batch of connecting rods from which supplier had issues in 2008. They know which oil pump design was marginal in 2015. All those lessons are incorporated into the 2026 version. This engine uses a timing belt, not a chain. That seems outdated, but here's the reality. Honda's belts are rated for 100,000 miles and cost $300 to replace. Timing chains are lifetime, except when they stretch or the tensioner fails at 150,000 miles, causing catastrophic engine damage. Honda chose the maintenance item over the potential disaster. Replace the belt on schedule, and this engine will run for 400,000 miles. The 10-speed automatic is the same unit in the 4Runner, co-developed with General Motors but extensively modified by Honda. Honda lengthened the gear ratios, reduced line pressure to decrease clutch wear, and added a larger cooler. The transmission learns your driving style over the first 1,000 miles and adapts shift points to minimize wear. It's not dramatic, you won't notice it, but it extends life. The all-wheel drive system is Honda's iVTM4 with torque vectoring. Electronically controlled, yes, but with a critical reliability feature: mechanical clutch packs, not electromagnetic ones. Electromagnetic systems are faster but generate heat and fail. Mechanical clutches with electronic control are slower but last. Honda chose durability over response time. But here's the torture test that shocked everyone. Honda took pre-production pilots to the Moab Desert and ran them on Hell's Revenge Trail for 30 consecutive days. This is a trail that breaks purpose-built rock crawlers. 30 days, 8 hours per day. At the end, they stripped the vehicles down to inspect for damage. The suspension bushing showed wear equivalent to 50,000 highway miles. Everything else was fine. The engineers expected catastrophic failures. They found normal wear, and here's the interior detail that matters. The dashboard is a single piece of molded plastic, not multiple pieces clipped together. Multiple pieces mean rattle points as clips wear. A single piece can't rattle against itself. At 100,000 miles, the pilot's interior will still be silent while competitors are developing the characteristic creaks and squeaks of age. Number 1. 2026 Toyota Land Cruiser 250. This is it. The most reliable SUV, not just from Japan, but from anywhere. The Land Cruiser name carries 70 years of reputation, and the 2026 model continues that legacy while actually becoming more reliable than its predecessor. The previous Land Cruiser was massive, complex, and expensive. The 2026 model is smaller, simpler, and more focused. It uses the same 2.4-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder as the 4Runner, but in the Land Cruiser it's tuned for longevity over performance. Peak torque is limited to 310 later instead of the 317 available in the 4Runner. Why? Because Toyota knows this vehicle will be loaded to capacity, towing, crawling over rocks, and crossing deserts. That extra 7 pound-feet of torque adds stress without meaningful benefit. They left margin for durability. The 8-speed automatic has Land Cruiser-specific calibration with earlier upshifts and longer torque converter lockup. This keeps engine speed lower, reducing wear. The transmission has an additional cooler beyond the standard unit. The Land Cruiser runs 2 coolers in series. Overkill? Maybe, but Land Cruisers are sold in Africa, South America, and the Middle East, where ambient temperatures exceed 120 degrees and vehicles run continuously for days. The cooling system is built for worst-case scenarios. The 4-wheel drive system is full-time with a locking center differential. This is critical. The center diff is a torsion unit, which is a purely mechanical limited slip. No clutches to wear out, no electronics to fail. It uses worm gears that bind under load, creating a progressive lock. This design has been in use since the 1980s with essentially 0 failures. When you find a solution that works, you don't change it. But here's the engineering philosophy that makes the Land Cruiser special. Every system has a mechanical backup. The electronic throttle has a limp home mode that works without sensors. The transfer case can be manually shifted even if the electronic actuator fails. The rear differential locker has a manual cable as backup. Toyota designs for catastrophic electronic failure. Assuming everything computerized will eventually break. The Land Cruiser keeps moving when electronics die. The suspension uses old-school coil springs and twin-tube dampers. Not fancy, not adjustable, just proven technology that's been working since the 1990s. The front uses a double wishbone setup instead of struts, providing better durability under load and easier repairability. You can replace individual suspension components without special tools or alignment requirements. This matters in remote areas where sophisticated equipment doesn't exist. The frame is the thickest of any body-on-frame SUV currently sold. The main rails are 3.2 millimeters thick, thicker than the Lexus GX, thicker than American trucks. Toyota analyzed finite element stress in every conceivable scenario: full load, maximum towing, off-camber rock crawling, ditch crossings. The frame is designed to never be the weak point, and it's galvanized, meaning the steel itself is zinc-coated before assembly. Surface rust might appear, but structural rust is nearly impossible. But here's what happened during the development test that proved this vehicle's durability. Toyota built 50 pre-production units and distributed them to the harshest environments on Earth: Australian Outback, African savanna, Middle Eastern deserts, South American mountains. Each vehicle logged 100,000 miles in 18 months. That's 300 miles per day average, which is brutal. The maintenance was deliberately neglected. Oil changes every 10,000 miles instead of 5,000, no other servicing. At the end of the test, 47 of 50 vehicles returned under their own power. Of the 3 that didn't, 2 had crash damage from accidents, and 1 had fire damage from a fuel system problem that was traced to contaminated fuel, not a design flaw. 47 out of 47 mechanical survivors. They stripped down every vehicle for inspection. The engines showed normal wear equivalent to 150,000 highway miles. The transmissions were fine. The suspensions had bushing wear but no failures. The interiors were destroyed from use, but everything mechanical was intact. Toyota took those findings and made the production vehicle even more robust. Production Land Cruiser is more durable than the test vehicles that already proved nearly indestructible. And here's the detail that reveals Toyota's confidence. The warranty is 3 years, same as everything else Toyota sells. But dealers are seeing internal memos about expected service life. Toyota engineering specifies that major components, engine, transmission, frame, should remain serviceable for 30 years or 500,000 miles. That's not warranty coverage. That's design specification. They're building this vehicle to outlast your ownership and serve the next owner and possibly the owner after that.
But here's what ties all 7 vehicles together. Something the manufacturers won't advertise, but the data proves conclusively. Japanese SUVs aren't more reliable because of superior technology. They're more reliable because of inferior technology. They use older designs, proven components, and conservative engineering. They're not chasing horsepower numbers or 0 to 60 times. They're building vehicles that work the same way in year 15 as they did in year 1. And that philosophy, boring, old-fashioned, unsexy engineering, creates vehicles that simply refuse to die. The American market wants excitement. The Japanese manufacturers provide dependability. And that gap in philosophy is why the top 7 most reliable SUVs coming in 2026 are all from Japan. 7 Japanese SUVs built to standards the rest of the world abandoned decades ago. These aren't the fastest, they're not the most technologically advanced. They're simply the ones that will still be running when everything else has been recycled. If you want reliability, you want proven technology executed conservatively. That's the Japanese formula, and it works. Hit that like button if you're now rethinking what reliability actually means. Subscribe for more automotive content that cuts through marketing hype to reveal what actually matters. And drop a comment telling me which of these 7 you'd trust with your money. The market will keep pushing complexity and features, but these 7 SUVs prove that simple done right beats complex every single time.